Hi everyone, this is Amol Shetty, and in this particular tutorial we will understand about Docker Compose. Now before than that we have covered two videos. In the first video we talked about the what is Docker, and there we have understand about the Docker commands and a few of the basic Docker concept. In the second tutorial we have talked about how to build a Docker image and the multi-staging builds. In this third video we are going to talk about Docker Compose, and if you haven't checked those two videos, so you may check it that in my playlist. And please do subscribe my channel so that you can stay tuned for more understanding on the Docker part. So let's get started. Now here in this particular tutorial we are going to understand about what is the need of the Docker Compose. Okay, first of all we'll talk about that. Then we will talk about how to write the Docker Compose file. So we have to write one YAML file. We'll understand about that, and at last we will have a practical demo understanding how to exactly Docker Compose works. So let's get started. Now, first of all, let's understand that what is the need of the Docker Compose. Okay, so just assume an example that you guys are working on the microservices based application. Okay, now just assume that you have a microservices based application, and with that application you will have a lot of services to be created with the help of Docker image. Okay, now so just assume that you have so many services, just for example 10 to 12 microservices you have. Now in such case what you guys will be doing, you guys will be writing 10 to 12 Docker files for that, and then again you will be building the Docker image for each and individual Docker image. Now once even the Docker image building part is done, then it's time to run the Docker images. So how you will do it, you will take each individual image and say docker run, then -p, and you will be mentioning the each port number for each command, right? Let's say if I wish to run a single Docker image, maybe I'll say docker run -d -p, and maybe 8080 port on which I'm exposing the application, and Docker image name. So with this way I'll be running my Docker images. Okay, now but I have to do this process for 10 to 12 Docker images, so most likely I might make mistake here while running all of these Docker images. That's the first possibility. Second thing, again, it's a lot of manual work I have to do, right? Like for 10 to 12 number of times I'll be just executing this single command, and here a lot of options we have, right? Sometimes it might be some environment variable we have, sometimes it could be something the volume attachment we have. So volume is not covered yet, but in the next class we are going to talk about volume part. So we can have the multiple things here to be passed when we are saying the docker run command. So overall this command, when we are running, okay, there are a lot of manual efforts we have to take. Now we are looking for something, mechanism with which we can automate all of this work. Okay, so what exactly we are looking to automate? So maybe from the start, the building docker building command, I have to put, let's say 10 to 12 images. So I might have to say docker build command for 10 to 12 times, and again when it comes to running those all those 10 to 12 images, so I have to say docker run again 10 to 12 number of times. So I'm looking for some solution which can just automate, and with the single command, okay, with the single command I should be able to run all of this together. Okay, so that's what, this is the place where Docker Compose comes into the picture. Okay, this is a place where Docker Compose comes into the picture. So Docker Compose is like an extra plugin that you have it, and that comes along with the Docker core software. Okay, so maybe if it doesn't come, then you need to install it separately. So that is a Docker Compose tool is, and that tool is going to help you to achieve this goal, that you can treat those services separately and you can just start all of these services in one go by putting out one single command. Now for that purpose, of course, you need to write one Docker Compose YAML file. Okay, so you need to write one YAML file, and with the help of that you just have to say docker compose up, and after that everything will be in place. Okay, like building the image and then running those images is going to be possible with just a one single command. Okay, now like where you can utilize this is all things. Okay, so when of course the one example here is the microservices environment, then definitely you should go and use that one, and especially this might help for developers. Okay, so developers are not the one who are expert in choosing what to port number choose, or let's say which environment variable to pass, what volume to be passed. Okay, every single parameter they might miss something, and again if it is something somebody has to do that again and again, so it's a lot of manual work one has to do. So especially for developers, this is going to be a savior. They just have to say a Docker Compose up, and there all the applications are like services are up, and they can run them to test out the further things, right? So for especially for developers, the DevOps engineer might have to write these Docker Compose files, and we can keep it along with your GitHub source code. So whoever wishes to run that code, they can just run it with the single click, and that's how this tool is. Now to demonstrate this further, what I have done here is that we have one GitHub URL, like this GitHub URL I'll provide you in the description. Now this one is enough for you to have the complete understanding. Okay, so here you can just have overview. You may just read it. Okay, so when you have a multi-container application, in such case Docker Compose tool can help you to run the things in a streamlined and efficient manner, right? Now next thing is that you can just put the entire stack in one go, and you have to write the YAML configuration file for that. So with the single command you can create, start all the services, and of course you can make it down also at the same time if you wish to. And these are the few of the use, like why you have to use these are the few of the reasons you can get it. So efficient collaboration, simplified control, rapid development, and portability, and community support. You get this all the benefits, right? Now these are the common use cases you have: development environment, automated testing. So you may just go through this theory. I'll directly jump on the practical side. Okay, now what you guys can do is you can just clone simply this code, and there I have written this Docker Compose file to explain you further. But before going and showing you the practical demonstration, I have taken one Docker Compose example file. Okay, so let's open this one and have understanding here. Okay, then further we will have a demo. So for a demonstration, the other Docker Compose file we have it. So this is how your Docker Compose file is going to look like. Okay, so now here in this case we have, just assume we have a different services. Okay, now this is the version number. First of all, you will mention it. That's a stable Docker Compose format file version. You have it. So 3.8 you can consider in your case as well. Next thing you have here is the services. Okay, so in services you have two services. One is front end, other is back end. Now what service name you would like to keep, that's your choice. Okay, so within this particular service you are going to mention all the parameter that whichever you have you wish to run it while running the Docker image. Okay, so this is the image I'm considering. Okay, now in your case it might be something the base image if you have it, or let's say in your case you have to build a image in first place and then you wish to run. Okay, it could be either the thing. So in case that build option you have to mention it here. And second example in which we have the different option here. Okay, so in that case you will get to know that if you have to build the image and then run it, then instead of image you're gonna mention the build word and where is your Docker file. So that's something you're gonna mention it. Then container name, again container name, and what container name you would like to keep it. So that's again your choice. Port number. So this is the 3000 port of your server, that is a host machine. You are mapping it with the other port, right? So that's something we have talked in the first video. So if something is not clear here, okay, you may just check out the first video. Then here we have volume. So volume we are going to cover in the next class, but let me speak a little bit about here. So what we are doing here, this is the host the volume, and that we are mapping with the container this path. Okay, so basically that whatever you're storing here, that will get reflected here or vice versa. So that's about the volume, and that volume mapping here you're doing. Then what would be the working directory inside your container, that is also you're mentioning here. Now next thing is that with what command your container is going to start. So that's npm start, right? So these all things you can just mention it in one go, and whichever the parameter you have. In fact, even if you have environment variable, you can just mention it here. Okay, so these all freedom you get it. And so that's my first service here, and almost the second service is like all the configuration is same. It is just a port number we have a different, and probably the volume amount we are doing it at a different port. Okay, and so it's the same base image with which we are going to create a multiple services. Now that we do we can do it again. We have covered that in first session. So this is what the services we are creating. and you can create as like, the microservices based application might have, let's say, 15 to 20 microservices. So those many services will come here. Now few of them might you have to build it, or few of them you are just taking it from the Docker hub and you will straight away run them. Okay, so this is just for example purpose, I have taken the image. Now let's go ahead and do the practically the things. Okay, so first of all, what we will do is we will take this code. Okay, and of course you guys can also follow practice this one. Okay, I'll give the link in the description, and if you like this repository, maybe you can give it a star here. Okay, so that will help for me. Okay, fine, so let's go ahead. So what we will do here is that we will take the code. I'll copy this URL. I have clicked on the code and then HTTPS. I'll copy this URL, and next thing is what I have done here is that I have already created a Docker server in the previous classes. So this particular Docker server, I'll just take it. And also in my case, Docker Compose plugin is also I have got it when I installed the Docker. Okay, along with that itself, I got the Docker Compose plugin. In your case, if it is not there, then you need to install it. Okay, and you can just look for the documentation. Okay, just go and search for a Docker Compose install, and you should get the appropriate document. Now in my case, I already have created Docker server, so I'll directly jump here, and what we will do here is that we will clone that particular code. Okay, so I'll say git clone, and that's my URL. Okay, so we're done with the cloning part, and if I check, so this is a Docker Compose repository which we have copied or cloned on my server machine. Okay, so I'll go inside this Docker Compose, and if I go there, you can see that all the content got copied, and here at this point, this is the Docker Compose file we have. Now we are going to take this Docker file, Docker Compose file, for our demonstration purpose, and let me explain to you what we have written there. So if I go and check Docker Compose.yml file, you guys can see that it's a really simple one, that I have given some web as my first service name, and second service name is the Redis. Okay, now in the second service as such there is nothing. Okay, now what this application is, I'll just explain to you. So Redis is what, that's a memcache. Okay, for cache purpose we are taking this second image, and the first image in which we have an application. Now we have to build the application. Okay, first of all, so I have already written one Docker file, so that you should get. So I have just given the dot. Okay, I've just given the dot. So what is meant by dot? So dot is indicating that this particular image, okay, this particular on the same path, you should find the Docker file. Okay, now using that Docker file, you have to first of all build a Docker image, and then further you have to run it on this particular port. Okay, so we are going to do both operation in just one go, and everything that we are going to mention inside this particular file, and that's it. Okay, so you just have to mention that build, and where is your path of the Docker file that you will be putting here, then port number or any other instructions you have. Okay, so all of those you can just mention it here. Now this application is quite simple. What we have here is just this Python script, we have it here, and if I check further, so we have this Docker file, and now within this Docker file, what we are going, we are doing is we are just taking the base image, and we will be copying, we are declaring some working directory. Then if you have this environment variable we required for our application, then we are installing a few of the stuffs. Then we are copying the requirement.txt. This is basically for the dependency. So here in this particular file we have a dependency declaration. We are going to have those dependency, and finally we are going to run the application. So that's what our application is. And inside this particular Docker compose.yml file, we are going to do what? We are just going to say with a single command. Okay, now here in this case, what all exactly steps I have to do? So it's going to be like this way. I just have to say Docker compose and up. Okay, now let's say, okay, like here your intention is not to run the Docker image, you just wish to build the Docker image, so you can say Docker compose build. Okay, now with this command you are going to build your Docker images, but maybe here I just want to go and one step ahead, and I have to say Docker compose up. Now with this command, what is going to happen, that it will look for this particular file. Within that file, what we have first service is like we are going to build this Docker image, and then we are going to run that. And second one, we have a redis image. So redis image is basically we are going to download it from the Docker Hub. So these are the two instructions, or these are the two services we have to run. So just press enter. Now this is going to take some time. Okay, here you can see the redis pulling is happening. Then we have to build one Docker image, and then it is going to just run that. Okay, so let's wait for some time. So at this position, you guys can see that our Docker images are running behind the scene. Okay, but now there is a problem that we haven't said to run this Docker images in the detached mode, and that's the reason here you can see it has taken my session. Okay, but behind the scene it is running. Okay, so both of those Docker images are running. Now if I have to prove, I might have to start one more session, and there I can show you. Or better, what I will do is I'll just press Ctrl C here, okay, to quit. So you can see here Docker Compose is getting stopped here. And what the next thing we will do is we will run the Docker Compose in the background. Now how to run Docker Compose in the background? So just say Docker Compose up and -d. Okay, so -d is going to run your Docker Compose in the background. Okay, the containers are not going to run in the foreground like this way. They are going to run it in the background. So just press enter. And here we go. Okay, so both of the containers have started. And if I check now Docker ps command, you guys can see that we have the two of the containers running here. That's the first one. Yeah, that's the first one, and this is the second one. We have this Docker Docker containers running. And at this point, okay, even if you wish to check the application, so one more thing here to note down, that we are exposing the application on 8000 port. Okay, so that's what the server port is. Okay, so here you can check. So if you want to see the result of this, okay, like whether you're able to see the application status on browser, so maybe what you guys can do is you can just go to the instances. There what I will do is I will open the port number that is a 8000. Okay, so what I will do here is I'll just go inbound setting. Here I'm gonna open the custom TCP port, and 8000 is the port on which we are exposing the application, and I'll open it for all people and just save the rule. Now on the 8000 port number, I shall be able to see the result. Okay, so that's my public IP, and here on 8000 port, let's check it. Just press enter. Now this application is basically checking how many times the visitor is visiting. So maybe I'll refresh. You can see it's just getting increased. So what I'm trying to say here is that you guys can check that your application is running absolutely fantastic way. If I check the Docker images, you can observe one more thing, that we have the two of the images running. Okay, I mean the two of the image availability we have. So Redis we have straight away taken from the Docker Hub, and the second one, that is Docker Compose, we have built it, and that image is available here in the repository. So with simple command Docker Compose up, we have started everything. And if you just wish to stop it, okay, so you may say Docker Compose down. With this command you can stop your containers, that whichever is running. Okay, so these are the things you can just note it down, and that's a really good tool if you have a multiple applications or multiple images to start. Okay, so with the single command, especially it's very useful to start your all the Docker containers. So stay tuned for the next, and please do subscribe my channel. So in the next upcoming class we are going to understand about the Docker volume. So see you there guys. A good day.